Brothers and sisters of Africa, hear me well tonight. I do not come to speak in whispers. I come to thunder against the betrayal that we see in South Africa. Watch this video till the end. If you love me, you will know the truth. The man who sits in the highest office while his people drown in despair, Cyril Ramaphosa. Yes, I will call his name. I will not fear it, because silence in the face of treachery is complicity. And I, Ibrahim Traoré, will never be complicit in the destruction of Africa by her own sons, who chose to serve foreign masters instead of their people. Ramaphosa has become a living symbol of what happens when a liberation movement loses its soul, when the promises of freedom are exchanged for contracts with foreign companies, when the spirit of Mandela, Biko, and Chris Hani is sold for silver coins. The ANC, once a beacon of African struggle, now crawls on its knees like a beggar, and Ramaphosa is the face of this shame. Look at South Africa today. Do you see prosperity? Do you see liberation? No. You see the collapse of power, of jobs, of dignity. The youth, black youth, the very children for whom blood was spilled in Soweto, wander the streets unemployed, forgotten, disrespected. Meanwhile, Ramaphosa smiles in front of cameras in Europe, shaking hands with men who continue to exploit Africa's minerals, its land, its people. Is this the freedom South Africa fought for? Is this the destiny of the great ANC? No, it is betrayal at the highest level. Ramaphosa, you sit in office as if you are a chief executive of a Western company, not a leader of a proud African nation. You have reduced the ANC into a corporation of corruption, a market where power is bought and sold. Eskom collapses, the lights go out, and South Africans live in darkness while you enrich yourself. Millions are without work, without hope, yet you boast of billions made in your private ventures. How do you sleep at night knowing your people are hungry? How do you wear that smile knowing mothers bury their sons because of crime, because of poverty, because of unemployment? Do not tell me about reconciliation when justice has never come. Do not speak of progress when townships rot. Do not speak of democracy when corruption strangles your institutions. You are a businessman first, Ramaphosa, and that is your curse. You treat South Africa as your farm, the ANC as your company, and the people as cheap labor. You forgot the struggle. You forgot that freedom is not for sale. I say this with fire in my chest. The ANC under Ramaphosa is dead. It is a walking corpse. Once it was a sword against apartheid, now it is a spoon feeding foreign interests. Once it was the voice of the oppressed, now it is the language of the oppressor. South Africa deserved a revolution of minds and of economy, but Ramaphosa gave them trickery, speeches, and empty promises. He stands not as a liberator, but as a gatekeeper for imperialists. You tell the world that you are building a rainbow nation. But what rainbow is this where black South Africans still suffer in the mines like slaves, where their land remains stolen, where their dignity is trampled? What rainbow is this where the white minority still holds the keys to the economy, while the black majority remains chained to poverty? Do you not see, Ramaphosa, that you are nothing but the smiling mask covering the ugly face of neocolonialism? South Africa should have been the economic engine of Africa. It should have stood tall and lifted the continent with its wealth. But under you, Ramaphosa, it crumbles, it sinks. Foreigners take your gold, your diamonds, your platinum, your land, while you beg them for investment. Do you not see the shame? Instead of building Africa's pride, you bow to the West, you beg for loans, you kneel for approval. And to the youth of South Africa, I say, do not be fooled by this man's speeches. He is not your father, he is your betrayer. Rise, question, reject this leadership that sees you as expendable. Ramaphosa fears the fire of young Africans who refuse to accept crumbs. That is why he feeds you slogans while he fills the pockets of his friends. That is why the ANC clings to power through fear, division, and corruption. They fear the day you will say enough. Ramaphosa, listen to me now. Africa has no more patience for weak leaders. We do not need servants of the West. We do not need smiling faces that hide corruption. We do not need cowards who bow when they should stand. You are a coward, yes, I said it, a coward who feared the true revolution, who feared upsetting the white masters, who feared reclaiming the land and the economy for your people. Instead, you chose comfort, you chose compromise, you chose betrayal. When the history of Africa is written, you will not stand among the giants. You will not be remembered as a liberator. You will be remembered as a man who inherited the struggle and squandered it. A man who carried the torch of freedom only to extinguish it for profit. A man who chose to serve capital instead of justice. Do you not feel the shame, Ramaphosa, when you walk in the footsteps of Mandela but drag the chains of corruption behind you? Do you not hear the voices of the martyrs crying out against your betrayal? Chris Hani, who died for the people, would he recognize this ANC of yours? Biko, who spoke of black consciousness, would he not spit on the cowardice of your leadership? The ancestors are watching, and their judgment will be harsh. I say to you, step aside if you cannot lead with courage. Step aside if you cannot serve your people. Step aside if your heart beats only for money and foreign praise. Africa has no time left for men like you. Africa is rising, Ramaphosa, with or without you. And when we rise, we will not rise with cowards. We will rise with lions. Let the people hear me well. It is time to tear down the false gods of politics. It is time to expose the hypocrites who wear the clothes of revolution but live as kings while their people starve. Ramaphosa has exposed himself as such a man, and the ANC under him has become nothing but a relic of betrayal. The youth must not be afraid. The workers must not be silent. The poor must not be patient. Enough waiting, enough hoping, enough begging. Stand up and claim what is yours. Demand leaders who fear no one but God, who serve no one but the people, who bow to no flag but the flag of Africa. I will not sugarcoat it. Ramaphosa, you are a disgrace. You are proof that liberation without economic freedom is nothing. You are proof that when leaders forget their people, the nation dies. But South Africa will not die. Africa will not die. The people will rise, the youth will lead, and they will sweep away the corruption, the cowardice, and the betrayal. Mark my words, the fire that started in Burkina Faso will spread, the fire of resistance, the fire of true independence, the fire of African pride, and when it reaches South Africa, no Ramaphosa, no failing ANC, no foreign master will be able to extinguish it. This is not a warning, this is a prophecy. Africa is awake, and those who betray her will face the wrath of her children. Ramaphosa, your time of pretending is ending. Your mask is falling, and when it does, the whole world will see the coward you truly are. Africa is done with cowards. Africa demands lions. Africa demands leaders who will die before they betray. Brothers and sisters, let me begin by telling you this truth. Betrayal does not come from your enemy. Betrayal comes from the one who stands beside you, the one who carries your hopes, the one who promises to fight for you, but then sells you in the marketplace of the oppressor. And that, my people, is exactly what Cyril Ramaphosa has done. He inherited the torch of the liberation struggle, but instead of carrying it forward to the finish line of freedom, he used it to light the cigars of foreign corporations. He betrayed the struggle, he betrayed his people, and he betrayed Africa. What was the liberation struggle in South Africa? It was not simply about ending apartheid in law. No, it was about breaking the chains of economic slavery. It was about restoring land to its rightful owners, giving the black child dignity, ensuring that those who suffered under apartheid would rise and live free, not just politically, but economically. Freedom was not meant to be a flag in the sky and hunger in the stomach. Freedom was not meant to be a national anthem sung in darkness because Eskom has collapsed. Freedom was supposed to be the reclaiming of power, wealth, and dignity. But Ramaphosa chose another path. He chose the path of cowardice, the path of comfort, the path of selling his people's inheritance to foreign masters. Do you know why? Because he was never a revolutionary at heart. He was always a businessman. And what does a businessman see? Profit, not justice. Contracts, not liberation. shareholders, not citizens. The ANC under him became less a liberation movement and more a corporation serving foreign shareholders. Look at the mines, look at the gold, the platinum, the diamonds. Who controls them today? Is it the black South African people who bled and died in Marikana, who sacrificed in Soweto, who buried their children during apartheid? No, it is still the foreign companies, the same structures of exploitation dressed in modern suits. And Ramaphosa, instead of taking back control, stands at their service. He protects their interests. He ensures their profits. He tells them, do not fear, I am your man. This is betrayal. Do you remember Marikana? Do you remember the massacre where workers demanding fair wages were gunned down like animals? Where was Ramaphosa then? He was on the side of the corporations, not the workers. He was in the boardrooms, not the mines. He was with the bosses, not the people. That moment revealed his true heart. A man who would rather protect profit than protect lives. A man who has chosen the side of the oppressor while wearing the clothes of the liberator. And tell me, what happened to land reform? What happened to the promise that land would be returned to the dispossessed? He speaks of it in vague terms. He delays. He commissions reports. He promises, but he never delivers. Because to deliver land would mean confronting those who still hold it, those who finance his campaigns, those whose approval he craves in the West. Ramaphosa will not confront them. He bows to them. He negotiates with them. He begs them. He serves them. This is not leadership. This is servitude. And what of the ANC itself? The ANC that once carried the dreams of Africa's oppressed is now nothing but a mask. It wears the clothes of revolution, but its heart is owned by corporations. It sings the songs of freedom while signing contracts of betrayal. And at the head of this hypocrisy sits Ramaphosa, the smiling betrayer. He attends global forums to boast of South Africa's open economy, but that open economy means open looting, open exploitation, open robbery of the people's resources. Do not be deceived, my people. Ramaphosa is not building a South Africa for South Africans. He is building a South Africa for investors. He is building a playground for Western companies who come to dig, to mine, to exploit, and to leave nothing behind but poisoned soil and broken communities. This is not the dream of Mandela. This is not the struggle of Biko. This is not the sacrifice of Chris Hani. This is betrayal, and betrayal has a price. The price is unemployment. The price is poverty. The price is youth wandering hopelessly in the streets. The price is crime that devours communities. The price is a nation that bleeds while its leader smiles in foreign capitals. Ramaphosa, you were supposed to finish the fight. You were supposed to break the chains. You were supposed to take the liberation struggle to its true end, African ownership of African resources. But instead, you sold the soul of the ANC, and you turned South Africa into a playground for the very powers the struggle fought to defeat. You are not the heir of the struggle. You are its gravedigger. And I say to the people, never forgive betrayal. Never accept it. The struggle is not over. It has only been hijacked. The youth must reclaim it. The workers must reclaim it. The poor must reclaim it. Because the liberation struggle belongs to the people, not to Ramaphosa, not to the ANC, and certainly not to the corporations. Let me tell you what I see when I look at the ANC under Ramaphosa. I see a corpse. Yes, a corpse. Once upon a time, the ANC was alive, filled with the blood of revolution, the fire of sacrifice, the heartbeat of millions who dared to dream of freedom. But today, under Ramaphosa, it is no longer a movement. It is a rotting carcass. It still wears the clothes of struggle. It still sings the songs of liberation. But inside, there is nothing but decay, corruption, division, and death. When you touch a corpse, it is cold. That is the ANC now. Cold to the cries of the poor, cold to the hunger of the people, cold to the pain of the youth. Once it was the spear of the nation, now it is a dull knife rusting in the hands of greedy men. Once it struck fear into oppressors, now it strikes only deals in back rooms. Once it stood for the liberation of the African child, now it stands for the enrichment of its leaders. Look at the youth of South Africa. What do they inherit from this ANC? Not jobs, not dignity, not hope. They inherit unemployment, drugs, crime, and despair. They are the children of freedom, but they live in chains of poverty. And while the youth wander jobless, the leaders of the ANC drive expensive cars, wear designer suits, and dine at the tables of foreign ambassadors. Is this not betrayal? Is this not decay? Look at the poor. What does the ANC give them? Empty promises. Every election, they are told the same lies. We will deliver jobs. We will deliver housing. We will deliver land. But the poor remain in shacks. The poor still drink dirty water. The poor still wait for electricity that never comes. And while the poor suffer, ANC officials grow rich from corruption tenders, from stolen state funds, from deals that fatten their pockets while the people starve. And look at the nation itself. South Africa, a country so rich in resources, so blessed with potential, is today in darkness. Eskom collapses, the lights go off, businesses fail, hospitals struggle, children cannot study. Do you understand the symbolism? A liberation movement that once brought light to its people now leaves them in darkness. Literal darkness. That is the truth of the ANC under Ramaphosa. And do not tell me this is accident. It is not accident. It is the product of corruption, mismanagement, and cowardice. When leaders fight not for the people but for positions, when they care not for the nation but for their faction, when they divide among themselves while the people suffer, that is not leadership, that is rot. And the ANC is rotting from the inside out. Ramaphosa pretends to be the man who will clean the ANC, but how can a man who is part of the rot clean the rot? How can a man who benefits from corruption fight corruption? How can a man who climbs to power on the back of corporate money stand for the people? It is impossible. He speaks of renewal, but renewal cannot come from a corpse. Renewal requires life, and there is no life left in the ANC. And so, my people, you must face the truth. The ANC of Mandela is gone. The ANC of Biko's dreams is gone. What remains is a corpse that stinks of corruption, of betrayal, of cowardice, and a corpse cannot lead the living. The youth must not let this corpse strangle their future. The poor must not let this corpse suffocate their hope. South Africa cannot be buried with this corpse of the ANC. It is time to bury it and build anew. I say it again, the ANC under Ramaphosa is a corpse, and Africa has no use for corpses. Africa has use only for movements that breathe, that fight, that sacrifice, that live for the people. South Africa must rise again, not with this dead ANC, but with a new spirit, a new fire, a new generation that refuses corruption, refuses division, and refuses failure. Let us speak truth tonight. Political freedom without economic freedom is an illusion. It is a flag without land. It is an anthem without food. It is a vote without dignity. And that is exactly what South Africa has today. They tell you apartheid is gone. They tell you you are free. They tell you you live in a democracy. But ask yourself, who owns the land? Who owns the mines? Who owns the banks? Who controls the wealth? The answer is the same as it was under apartheid. Not the people, not the poor, not the youth, not the black majority, but a handful of elites and foreign corporations. And Ramaphosa, instead of changing this injustice, protects it. He smiles for Western approval while his people drown in poverty. South Africa fought one of the greatest struggles of the 20th century. Generations died, sacrificed, and suffered, not only to end white rule, but to reclaim dignity, to reclaim the land, to reclaim the economy. Because true freedom means nothing if the people are still slaves to poverty. But what has Ramaphosa done with that struggle? He has turned it into a business deal. He has turned the blood of the martyrs into a bargaining chip. Instead of breaking the chains of economic slavery, he polished them and called it democracy. Look at the land question. Decade after decade, the ANC promises land reform, but where is it? The land is still in the hands of a few, while millions of black South Africans remain landless, working on farms they will never own, living in shacks on soil that rightfully belongs to them. Ramaphosa speaks of land reform, but delays it, weakens it, compromises it until it means nothing. He dares not anger the powerful landowners. He dares not upset foreign investors. He chooses comfort for the rich over justice for the poor. That is not leadership, that is betrayal. And the mines, the mines. South Africa's soil is a treasure chest of gold, platinum, diamonds, and minerals the world depends on. These resources should be the foundation of African prosperity. They should build schools, hospitals, roads, industries, but instead, they enrich a few billionaires and foreign companies, while the miners themselves live in poverty and die in accidents underground. What greater shame is this? That the wealth of the land flows out of the country, while the children of that land go hungry. And what does Ramaphosa do? He makes deals with the corporations. He protects their profits. He invites them to exploit even more, while his people continue to starve. Do you remember Marikana? Workers who demanded only a living wage were gunned down by the state, massacred like animals. And what was Ramaphosa's role? He was not with the workers. He was with the corporations. He stood not with the people, but with the owners. That is the essence of Ramaphosa, a servant of capital, not a servant of the people. Economic freedom is not a luxury. It is the very essence of liberation. Without land, without wealth, without control over resources, political freedom is a mask, a lie, a shadow. And South Africa lives in that lie today. Ramaphosa is the guardian of that lie. He walks on stages in Europe and America, clapping hands with those who plunder Africa, and they applaud him because he keeps the system safe for them. He protects their access to your land, your mines, your wealth. That is why they love him. That is why they call him a statesman. But the people, the poor, the youth, what do they call him? They call him a betrayer. Tell me, what good is the right to vote if you still live in a shack? What good is a flag if your children go to bed hungry? What good is an anthem if you have no land to stand upon as your own? That is the question South Africa must answer. Because without economic freedom, there is no freedom. Without ownership of land, mines, and wealth, independence is an empty word. Ramaphosa has abandoned his people to poverty while smiling for cameras abroad. He has chosen Western approval over African dignity. He has chosen foreign investors over his own citizens. He has chosen betrayal over liberation, and history will remember him for it. But I say this to the youth, to the poor, to the workers: do not accept this false freedom. Do not accept democracy without bread. Do not accept liberation without land. Stand and demand what is yours, because true freedom is not given, it is taken. And it is time to take back the land, the mines, and the wealth that belong to the people. Africa has no more patience for cowards. No more patience for men who sit in the highest offices of power and serve foreign interests while their own people suffer. No more patience for leaders who speak sweet words in public but betray the blood of their ancestors in private. Cyril Ramaphosa is one such man. He stands exposed not only as a weak leader, but as a mask for neo-colonialism, a smiling face that hides the exploitation of our people. And I say this to every African watching: we have had enough. Enough of weakness, enough of betrayal, enough of pretending that servitude can be mistaken for leadership. What does it mean to be a coward as a leader? It means you fear confrontation when justice demands it. It means you prioritize comfort over courage. It means you bow to foreign powers instead of standing for your people. Ramaphosa has all of these traits. He fears the West more than he fears the cries of his own citizens. He fears upsetting the corporations more than he fears the collapse of his nation. He fears angering investors more than he fears the collapse of his people's dignity. That is not leadership, that is cowardice. Look at the decisions he has made, or rather the decisions he has avoided. Land reform delayed, economic independence ignored, corruption within the ANC tolerated, crime unchecked, electricity failing, education declining. The nation cries out for leadership, and what does he give? Smiles for cameras, speeches for foreign approval, photo ops with the powerful, while South Africans rot in poverty and despair. That is the measure of cowardice. Cowardice is contagious. It spreads through institutions, and under Ramaphosa, the ANC has become a breeding ground for fear. Officials are too afraid to challenge corruption. Ministers are too afraid to enforce justice. Policies are too timid to transform the lives of the people. The people see the decay, the youth see the stagnation, the poor see the neglect, and they lose faith in the very system that was meant to serve them. A nation cannot rise under cowardly leadership. A continent cannot prosper under leaders who bow at the altar of foreign powers. Africa is rising, and we see it. Across the continent, the people are no longer willing to accept leaders who kneel for the West and smile while their own nations suffer. The youth are awake. Workers are organizing. Communities are demanding accountability. Corrupt elites are being exposed. And the message is clear. We do not need weak men to lead us. We need lions. We need leaders with courage, leaders who speak truth to power, leaders who put their people above profit. Ramaphosa cannot hide anymore. His mask is falling. The people see it, the continent sees it, and the world should see it. He is a servant of neocolonialism, protecting foreign interests while pretending to fight for South Africans. He has become a symbol of everything Africa rejects: cowardice, compromise, and betrayal, and that is why Africa will no longer tolerate him. The time for weak leadership is over. The time for excuses is over. The time for fearing foreign powers while your own people starve is over. Africa demands courage. Africa demands justice. Africa demands leaders who will die for their people before selling them for profit. Ramaphosa, you have failed that test. You have failed the continent. You have failed the youth, the workers, the poor, and the vision of our ancestors. And so I say to the people, rise. Rise and refuse to be governed by cowards. Rise and demand leaders who are fearless, who are bold, who are true lions. Refuse the false promises of men who bow to others while abandoning their citizens. Hold them accountable, expose them, replace them. Because Africa cannot wait for weak leadership to catch up with the needs of its people. Africa cannot wait for promises that never come. Africa must lead itself through courage, through strength, and through vision. Ramaphosa is not Africa. He is a relic of a failed system, a symbol of what happens when leaders value comfort and foreign praise over their people. But Africa is alive. Africa is awake. And Africa will no longer tolerate cowardice. The lions of this continent are rising, and when they roar, no coward will hide, no betrayer will survive, and no foreign master will dictate our destiny. We are done with men who betray, men who bow, men who fear. Africa demands courage. Africa demands power. Africa demands liberation in truth, not in name. Ramaphosa, hear this. Your mask has fallen. Africa is rising. And we will not wait for cowards to catch up with the demands of history.